We going in.
I feel like I got some. Oh yeah.
Man, I'm old WCW right now. I'm Sting off the top rope, bro. You remember Sting?
That's my favorite.
Yeah, bro. Actually, my guy was Razor Ramon.
Razor's Edge. We are Urban Ed Academy. Welcome to our Man to Bay presentation, where we are trying to bring a vision to life to see one man of color teaching in every elementary school in the city.
And you need to know about it. That's why you're here. Keep watching.
Albert Einstein once said, everybody's a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, today on trial we have modern day schooling. Glad you could come. Not only does he make fish climb trees, but also makes them climb down and do a 10-mile run. Tell me, school, are you proud of the things you've done? Turning millions of people into robots, do you find that fun? Do you realize how many kids relate to that fish swimming upstream in class, never finding their gifts, thinking they are stupid, believing they are useless? Well, the time has come, no more excuses. I call school to the stand and accuse him of killing creativity, individuality, and being intellectually abusive. He's an ancient institution that has outlived his usage. So, Your Honor, this concludes my opening statement, and if I may present the evidence of my case, I will prove it.
Proceed.
Exhibit A. Here's a modern day phone. Recognize it? Here's a phone from 150 years ago. Big difference, right? Stay with me. Here's a car from today, and here's a car from 150 years ago. Big difference, right? Well, get this. Here's a classroom of today, and here's a class we used 150 years ago. Now, ain't that a shame? In literally more than a century, nothing has changed. Yet you claim to prepare students for the future? But with evidence like that, I must ask, do you prepare students for the future or the past? I did a background check on you and let the record show that you were made to train people to work in factories, which explains why you put students in straight rows, nice and neat, tell them sit still, raise your hand if you want to speak, give them a short break to eat, and for 8 hours a day, tell them what to think. Oh, and make them compete to get an A letter which determines product quality, hence grade A of meat. I get it. Back then, times were different. We all have a past. I myself am no Gandhi. But today, we don't need to make robot zombies. The world has progressed, and now we need people who think creatively, innovatively, critically, independently, with the ability to connect. See, every scientist will tell you that no two brains are the same, and every parent with 2 or more children will confirm that claim. So please explain why you treat students like cookie cutter frames or snapback hats, giving them this one-size-fits-all crap.
Watch your language.
Sorry, Your Honor, but if a doctor prescribed the exact same medicine to all of his patients, the results will be tragic. So many people would get sick, yet when it comes to school, this is exactly what happens, this educational malpractice, where one teacher stands in front of 20 kids, each one having different strengths, different needs, different gifts, different dreams, and you teach the same thing the same way? That's horrific. Ladies and gentlemen, the defendant should not be acquitted. This may be one of the worst criminal offenses ever to be committed. And let's mention the way you treat your employees.
Objection. Overruled. I want to hear this.
It's a shame. I mean, teachers have the most important job on the planet, yet they're underpaid? No wonder so many students are short-changed. Let's be honest, teachers should earn just as much as doctors, because a doctor can do heart surgery and save the life of a kid, but a great teacher can reach the heart of that kid and allow him to truly live. See, teachers are heroes that often get blamed, but they're not the problem. They work in a system without many options or rights. Curriculums are created by policymakers, most of which have never taught a day in their life. Just obsessed with standardized tests. They think bubbling in a multiple choice question will determine success. That's outlandish. In fact, these tests are too crude to be used and should be abandoned, but don't take my word for it. Take Frederick J. Kelly, the man who invented standardized testing, who said, and I quote, "These tests are too crude to be used and should be abandoned." Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, if we continue down this road, the results will be lethal. I don't have much faith in school, but I do have faith in people. And if we can customize healthcare, cars, and Facebook pages, then it is our duty to do the same for education, to upgrade it, change it, do away with school spirit, because that's useless. unless we're working to bring the spirit out of each and every student. That should be our task. No more Common Core. Instead, let's reach the core of every heart in every class. Sure, math is important, but no more than art or dance. Let's give every gift an equal chance. I know this sounds like a dream, but countries like Finland are doing impressive things. They have shorter school days, teachers make a decent wage, homework is non-existent, and they focus on collaboration instead of competition. But here's the kicker, boys and girls. Their educational system outperforms every other country in the world. Other places like Singapore are succeeding rapidly. Schools like Montessori, programs like Khan Academy. There is no single solution, but let's get moving. Because while students may be 20% of our population, they are 100% of our future. So let's attend to their dreams, and there's no telling what we can achieve. This is a world in which I believe, a world where fish are no longer forced to climb trees. I'll rest my case.
Respects to the brother.
Respects to this brother here. Brings all kinds of movement to my spirit every time I watch that video.
Every time. Something's wrong with you if you're not feeling some kind of way.
Yeah. But hello anyway. My name is Randy Saraguchi, and I'm the Executive Director of Urban Ed Academy.
Daniel Rumley, Deputy Director, Urban Ed Academy. Let's go.
Let's go. And so we're here to talk to you about joining an initiative to put a man of color teaching in every elementary school. It's a mission-based service commitment, we know, because of how education looks today. There's a reason why the profession only looks like you in 2% of cases if you're a black man, 3% of cases if you're a Latino man, and we got a lot of work to do.
We need you to contemplate this kind of service mission for your community and trust us to help guide you through it.
And we want to start that work early. This is a quote you'll see on the screen here that we try to live by in all of our work. Our mantra is that it is easier to build strong children than it is to repair broken men.
Frederick Douglass.
Get started early is what Freddie was telling us. And for us, that work starts in elementary school. When we're talking about transformational change, that's where we're trying to focus efforts for men like you.
Y'all see these stats on the screen?
So they kind of speak for themselves. There's an international exam, the PISA exam, that is run every 3 years. Mm-hmm. It's the closest thing we have to, an SAT.
Standardized SAT per country.
Across the board. And you see how we did in 2012. Not so hot. Not so hot in reading, science, or math. In 2015, we performed worse in every category, which isn't entirely surprising when you think about the systemic barriers and issues embedded in schools and everywhere.
What do they call insanity? Doing the same thing and expecting a different result?
That's the definition of
expecting different results in this test will be insanity because we haven't changed anything.
Not for real anyway, not substantively. And then so in 2018, the scores were released at the end of 2019, and we still aren't scoring amongst the best. This is a country that ranks #1 in confidence. You don't have to be too good at math to know that 26 is way closer to 34 than
it is to 1.
And if you listen to certain leaders out there, are always winning. But I'm gonna tell you right now, if you've gone to public school in the United States, it ain't that great.
What is it, social norming? We give people degrees?
Yeah, social promotion.
That part.
But social promotion gives us issues like this. In 2012, by this year, 2020, Georgetown University released a report projecting the number of high-paying jobs that would be available for us as a nation, 124 million. And we would only be able to fill less than half of them.
We being all of us, not just the black ones of us, those of you that aren't black that are watching because you care about this or you're just intrigued, wondering what the hell we're talking about. All of us, we weren't gonna be able to get 50% of those jobs.
Yeah, and that's everybody. So everybody's important, yes.
Yes.
But we particularly care about black children.
But we're talking about what we're talking about.
And the state of education for black children in the United States is worse.
Much worse.
What it looks like for your average American student. And we'll show you a few reasons why. Before we do though, we want to kind of get grounded in some of the lenses through which we're looking at this. Mm-hmm. As a population, we're looking at somewhere in the low 40s of 40 million African Americans in the country, about 13%.
Roughly. A small but large portion of the American electorate. We are,
Yeah. This is a statistically significant, a substantively significant population.
One that swings elections, we've seen.
And so when we look at what does an indication of a good life look like in the country, the Urban League for African Americans puts out a state of African American life scorecard every year across these 5 categories.
Education, economics, civic engagement, health, and social justice. We'll let some of the kind of subtopics in each one of those pop up on the screen to better familiarize yourself. But ultimately,
over those 5 big categories, these indicators measure out really interestingly. By design, I think we can all say, but nevertheless.
What is this?
In any indicator that's a negative one with projections for you to have not as great of a life, African Americans rank first in them. We're talking about unemployment rate, poverty, diabetes, substance abuse. And then on the other side, all of the indicators that would project you to have a better life, more successful life, student achievement, voter activity, et cetera,
last.
We rank dead last.
Last.
And so bringing that to education a bit again, and this was another study done some time ago, but poor children, and it's easy to put black children in there as a proxy, will hear 32 million fewer words by age 4. And that's just hearing them, not even processing, comprehending, just hearing
someone
them.
Talking to them.
That word gap is astounding, and it speaks to a number of issues probably. But when you have a gap like that and you're not able to address it, it also is not a surprise then that if you don't get to a certain point by a certain time, you're never catching up. And for us with our 3rd graders, we know that reading scores give us an indication of where they'll be. 75% of poor readers by 3rd grade will never catch up. And that's for all students again, but let's circle back to African American students, and specifically African American males, who are, I would say, arguably the most vulnerable student population in the country. If you're a black boy, you have a 42% chance of being educated in an underperforming school off rip. You have you're 3 times as likely to be reprimanded for the same offense as your white counterpart. And only 52% of African American men are graduating with a 4-year degree, as opposed to nearly 3/4 of white men in the same category.
Same age group. Crazy stuff.
But Al Jazeera can tell you a little bit better than we can about how all this stuff is integrated, how it works.
The school to prison pipeline. It's a term that describes how American kids get pushed out of public schools and into the juvenile and criminal justice systems. Basically, harsh zero-tolerance policies in schools have led to more suspensions, expulsions, and even in-school arrests. Getting suspended or expelled means more time away from school, and it doesn't take an honor student to figure out that's bad news. In fact, expelled and suspended students are more likely to get held back a grade, end up in juvie, or just drop out altogether. And dropping out of high school makes you 3 times more likely to get arrested. Back in school, forget about hallway monitors. Students these days often have to deal with school police. Minor offenses that might have landed you in the principal's office back in the day can now actually lead to your arrest. Students of color and those with disabilities are disproportionately affected. Black students get expelled 3 times more than their white classmates, while a student with a disability is 2 times more likely to get an out-of-school suspension than everyone else. And it's not because these kids are just bad apples. The Justice Department found that black students got harsher punishments than their white peers for doing the same things. So maybe it's time our education system got schooled?
So what are we doing about this?
Man the Bay. That's our solution.
We know that teachers matter, and we know that black men in schools matter. And so could we do something so crazy as to make more black men teachers?
Yeah.
That's something we might be able to do?
Yeah, we're only 2% of the teaching population. There's nowhere to go but up.
Yeah. Which is a shame, because teachers
matter.
Yeah.
And one thing we do want to, you know, there is some humor, but we don't want to pass over the idea that teachers are extremely important profession in society, in America. We want to elevate that profession with the level of quality in terms of programming that we offer our guys, that we recruit, that we offer you as soon as you show up. But at the end of the day, who the teacher is matters more than anything, is what we have honed in on. So at the end of the day, we built the program around a set of stats that we wanted to activate. And if you get one black male teacher in front of a set of children before they get to middle school with a cultural identity match, those children are going to be 29% more likely to want to go to college, 39% less likely to drop out of high school. That's with one black male teacher in front of a black child before that child gets to middle school. There are no silver bullets to such complex issues, but if you can make one decision at one point in one person's life and multiply that times 1,000 from a hiring decision, this is something worth doing. And what does that mean in terms of a monetary increase by virtue of those kids being on a better and more, what's the word I'm looking for? A stronger academic track. What's that mean?
Well, I mean, ultimately, if we're going to school to do what? To be able to participate in society, in the economy, right, for our families. And so when you're talking about using school as a vehicle to get to an economic position for yourself and your family, communities of color would have been able to gain $170 billion more if they were able to just bridge the gap in educational attainment between men of color, ages 25 to 64, and their white counterparts. Just closing the educational attainment gap, I had that projection. I was in a White House report from 2015, before the White House got crazy.
Hey, all right. So we started this program 3 years ago. We've got gentlemen in the fellowship right now. Here's a slight video to let you know what that looks like.
Being a man of color in the classroom is very important. The statistics show that not a lot of men of color are in the classroom, so it's a lot of lack of representation.
In Malcolm X specifically, there's no black male instructor in any of the classrooms from grade TK until 5th grade.
A lot of students don't feel as if they can connect well with their teacher, especially if they don't really get to see themselves in that position.
We don't have a lot of African American leaders in general in society, and I feel like UEA is striving to fix that problem.
Man the Bay is trying to place men of color in the classroom so that they can reach the children of color that are lacking the representation.
The goal is to have 100 black male teachers in front of every student before they reach middle school. It's gonna be really something, because I can't remember having a black male teacher.
We didn't have this growing up. We're in a great position where we can show these kids that you can be a role model in any position.
It really humbles me to know that I'm not just this figure in the classroom, not just this icon as a teacher or just an adult, but actually somebody they can relate to.
When I was their age, I wish I had a program like this. I would have had help in someone who looks like me.
And that's the connection, right? So I won't let them down, because I see myself, I'm like, there's no way that I'm going in this classroom unprepared, knowing that that was me at one point.
You can see the difference in the kids, how they take to us.
Students do look at me as automatically a black male role model.
I know they're listening, I know they're paying attention. They believe in us as much as we believe in them.
Like I've told them in the beginning, I've got your back and you gotta have my back. And they love that. And we always say, well, what are we gonna be today? And they'll tell you we're gonna be great.
The three-pronged approach of Man the Bay: workforce housing, workforce development, and then the community in which you're in and serving. Over the first year, all three of those silos of work are extremely activated. We take care of your housing. It's not a misstatement. Heavily subsidized over the course of the 4-year commitment. There's a ton of training, that workforce development. A lot of that happens in the first year because in years 2, 3, and 4, we want you activated in the classroom, making sure those kids are 29% more likely to go to college. And what we do in terms of the community to make sure that you're ready to go as soon as you are responsible in the beginning of year 2 is introduce you to the community in a variety of ways. Leadership through the fellowship, just as a community member, actually living in the community in Bayview where we service our children and our families. And then also in the adult world, if you will, plenty of receptions, plenty of entries to venues that allow people to let their hair down a little bit and just experience life in San Francisco and in the Bay. There's an at-bats and a repetition process where we want to allow people to get as many chances as possible to be put in leadership roles where they're not necessarily responsible. That's the difference between our program and other preparation programs. Years 2, 3, and 4, you're in the program, multiplying the stats of what 1 year does in the classroom for a group of children that look like that black male teacher. If we can get that times 3 by virtue of our standard, I think we raise the bar in a way that is that's unbelievable.
Yeah, and it's going to be a lot of work, you know, to get it done. Right. And so that's the level of investment we're trying to meet here. You know, we know that there's a high bar to get these results, and so we want to take a man from 0 to teacher in a year. You saw what that year of development looks like, and for you to be stabilized, to then be able to help serve these students and stabilize them in their educational journey. All of that support to us starts at home. It starts with you being able as a professional to live and work in the same city, you know, to really be able to know your student population.
That means we provide housing in layman's terms.
Yeah, and you know, in a place like San Francisco, we're doing what we can to make that better, easier, but it's worth it.
It is.
When we can get moments like these. We took these young men to City Hall for a Black History Month event last year. And you know, for some of them, it was their first time going to City Hall. For others, they've been before, but there's something to be said for being able to create pictures like these and have that last for a child for the rest of his life.
At the end of the day, we would love your participation. We love your interest. We'd love you to share the video. Click on the links that you see. Come to the website, send an email to the email address that's somewhere on the screen, and we'll get back to you. Thank you for your time. Randy Saraguchi, Redhead Kingpin.
Daniel Rumley.
No, Daniel Rumley.
No, we're grateful for you sitting through this video, this presentation. We're very much looking forward to meeting you virtually. You know, we're going to get past all of this COVID stuff. But we are excited about continuing this mission and this movement because schools will reopen and our students will need you.
And we hope you're here.